Welcome back to the Talking Hedge. I'm Josh Kincaid, and this is your Cannabis Business Podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about a USDA report that shows a similar affairs up in Canada with the U.S. in terms of CBD market, and then the online effect of marketplaces, according to Forbes. On the line with us is Dan Kimmis, our CBD correspondent with Good CBD Products. So on August 30th, the U.S. Department of Agriculture published a report on the legal hemp market in Canada, which details some of the regulatory challenges and producers of CBD products face in both countries. It's a quote from this Yahoo Finance article. And so apparently in Canada, CBD is regulated under the Cannabis Act, and so there's strict ways, and that compares to recently with the hemp bill that passed, and that's as long as it contains less than 0.3% THC. So USDA has been taking a while to develop hemp growing regulations. I think it was the DEA that just declared that it's not a controlled substance. And then, so despite all the hurdles, the already booming CBD market is projected to surpass $20 billion in 2024, according to BDS Analytics and ArcView Market Research. So as it shifts from dispensaries to general retail stores, as we're seeing Walgreens and Rite Aid and CVS. So in Canada, sales of CBD exceeded expectations of cannabis producers, leading to a widespread shortage across the country. You're seeing Anheuser-Busch and Tilray teaming up last year to have a $100 million joint venture for CBD and THC-infused drinks. You also have Constellation Brands, a multi-billion-dollar investment in canopy growth, who also just wrote off $52 million on that. Aurora Cannabis and other major players in the CBD sector will release quarterly updates in September. So that's coming up. So it's saying that the stock is volatile with Aurora. They're all a little volatile. But the Canadian cannabis giants gaining a foothold in the U.S., we're seeing that with multi-state operators. A lot of people are going up into Canada, filing IPOs or reverse takeover RTOs, and then bringing that capital back into the U.S. A lot of them are buying CBD, property, plant, and equipment, and eventually going to convert that to THC equipment, products, and so on. So a lot going on.
What's funny about it is, again, when we talk about the regulation side and such, it brings up this whole extra layer of accountability that needs to be there that precludes a lot of the small operators, right? I mean, if you're in the margin, right, if your business is nominally profitable right now, looking at what it's going to take to be, fully compliant is something you need to do. And it typically means a more expensive business. And so if you're in the margin, that's really complex. And this is where both Canada and the U.S., right, as these regulations get sorted out, as some of these crises resolve, it's very interesting to watch the effect on the ground, right? Because you got the big operators who are cruising, and then you got everybody else, and everybody else finds themselves really feeling the weight of these additional costs of doing business.
Incredibly regulated. From the banking industry, I can tell you that it's just as regulated. And so if you're not prepared for that, it's going to be a difficult transition. I worked for a brokerage firm that literally had one person in all of compliance. And then when they were bought by ING out of the Netherlands and eventually sold to Capital One, that team went from one individual to 24. And if you're not prepared for it, if you're not, you don't have the money for it, if you can't do that, then you need to rethink that business. It's incredibly crucial for compliance.
This week I was at one of the shows, right? The Cannabis Science Conference, right? And the one of the topics of discussion was, hey, grow up. The alcohol, the this industry, the that industry, they all deal with this level of regulation all the time. Y'all got to figure out your game and get yourself, profitable enough to deal with that. And again, it's from the perspective of watching a business mature. Who'd have thought that hemp farms would be, governed by OSHA? Who'd have thought some of these things? It is, that's a big team, brother. That's a lot of people to make sure you're compliant, right? I mean, that's the way it just works.
Yeah, and when things get more complicated, like if you're selling across state lines or even internationally on an e-commerce platform, for example, it's going to require you to
Right?
have your due diligence. So I've been working with the World Trade Center here locally on an e-commerce platform. It's translated into 18 languages. It's powered by Alibaba. And so you have opportunities to get into Southeast Asia and get your stuff online and even sell locally. But with that comes compliance, right? You need to be able to operate normally if you're going to take on additional steps like an online e-commerce platform. Which brings us to this Forbes article about how cannabis sales are about to flourish with the rise of cannabis marketplaces. We've both been involved with similar marketplaces back in 2017, boots on the ground, getting letters of intent, they LOIs, and we love those, right?
Oh
Got
yeah. Well,
75 of
and
them in 2 days and definitely proved both customer validation, product validation, learned a lot.
again, how do you buy most anything anymore? Online, right? I mean, unless it's fresh food, okay? And in turn, it would make sense that because in the end, what is cannabis? What is hemp? Just another product in the end. So you should be able to hit some kind of marketplace, get some kind of a value, take a look and say to yourself, this one's a dime more, but I think I'll click that link to buy there, right? And again, coming like a freight train, coming.
Absolutely. We traveled to Alaska, Eastern Washington, Oregon, Colorado, just basically hitting the ground trying to find out who needed an e-commerce platform. This a couple of years ago, and learned a lot. And then we went to our local friends here in Seattle at Kush.com and wanted to talk to them about our platform. I had no idea that they had Kush Marketplace at the time.
Oh yeah.
So when I
Literally.
went there and I talked to our friends Michael and Chase, I wanted to talk to them about my platform, and they were like, "Oh yeah, come on over, take a look at our platform." And I looked over at my cousin, and we're like, "What?" So that definitely proved it was validated. They had the customers. They were selling stuff, a couple of years ago when it was just an idea for our team.
Oh yeah. Again, when they started, right, it was there were state by state jurisdictions in what they were doing. So they started with Washington. What's interesting now is they got that model working well. And then, they have the Farm Bill and hemp. And so that same model, that same engine then deployed nationally, internationally. What a wonderful thing. The Kush guys are smart.
Yeah, almost 15% of regular retail sales are all online. I would have thought it was actually higher than that, but cannabis is definitely going online. So we're seeing a lot of hemp, CBD. We're also seeing some CBG being sold online. Lots of wholesale, and then right now is kind of the time where we're seeing some farms go out of business. Every year around outdoor harvest season, you see flash frozen, maybe 1 million grams being sold at at 7 cents or 8 cents a gram, and those e-commerce platforms are definitely the ones helping those businesses at least liquidate on that end.
Oh yeah, and a market that's working toward balance, and until it gets there, every cycle you're going to see more attrition and more people that are in a place where they are essentially liquefying and getting out at some level, right? And then, as is the case, again, what's the internet really built for? Selling stuff, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. In Washington, you can pre-order, so you can go online. You can get a 5 to 15% discount for pre-ordering. They'll set it aside, and then you go and pay for it. Whereas in California, they have delivery services like Ease, at least for medical. And so that could be interesting with ordering and delivering, adding more value adds and discounts. Um, and so Canna One recently launched an online marketplace for CBD. So I don't know if they educate. I haven't actually been on there, but they're creating similar marketplaces in Mexico and Europe. So,
Making the marketplace is actually a piece of cake, honestly.
mm-hmm.
Traffic to the marketplace, buyers, even sellers are easy. Okay, getting sellers on the marketplace, piece of cake. Okay, buyers, that's the thing. Do you have buyers in your marketplace? Am I actually going to sell my product? Okay, because the rest of it is all, damn, you could get your cousin who just graduated from, you know, the local college to do the stuff with regards to internet work. But getting the buyers on the platform is the real chore.
Right. And it's not just the US where Amazon is dominating. It's global, right? Everyone's making purchases online. And so this Forbes article goes on to say that by 2024, Americans are expected to spend more than $22 billion a year on CBD. And then in about 5 years, they're going to spend $66 billion annually on cannabis products in general. And so a lot of that is going to be on the backs of an e-commerce. And so definitely see more sales online, at least with CBD, until THC is available with delivery services. It'd be interesting to see what happens.
Hey, so 2 notes. One, all right, so locally there's a cannabis delivery service that's advertising via Craigslist. I'm going to run them to ground and find out what's up. They're claiming, you know, basically the DoorDash of cannabis. So that's in Seattle. And then, you know, just a quick reminder with regards to your online CBD, et cetera, sales, you know, those rules and those regs are all kind of sorting themselves out. What's interesting is, again, that state by state jurisdiction. And this is why I would just remind somebody to be smart, be wise, do things like listen to the Talking Hedge, your cannabis business podcast, find other sources you trust, because again, it is easy to break a rule that you didn't think you were breaking. And so just be smart.
Things move fast. Got to stay on top of it. So with that, we're going to roll this one up. I'm Josh Kincaid. This is the Talking Hedge. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, or don't. And I'm out.